Hey guys, it's Jim. Thanks for tuning in and coming back, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you may be. Today I'm going to talk about Luminar, and specifically I'm going to talk about editing a sunset photo. So let me go ahead and show you the photo. Boom, there it is. Now that's the after. Let me show you the before. That's what it looked like before. So obviously it's a big difference, and with all the filters in Luminar, there are 50, and so there's so many things you can do, but there's a few things that I find myself doing again and again with like sunrise and sunset type photos, and that's the filters I'm talking about with this photo. Now if you look at the after again, obviously I brought up the colors quite a bit, but also if you look at the strip of land kind of in the center of the photo, you can see I brightened that a little bit and went from that to that. So let me jump in and hop into the editing. Here we go. Okay, so here's my base photo, and I've already got the 5 filters over here that I'm going to walk through. It's Accent AI, Adjustable Gradient, Golden Hour, Color Balance, and Image Radiance. So these are 5 that I use on a lot of sunsets. You can use them on golden hour photos, blue hour photos, sunrise photos. It doesn't really matter. Any of those kind of edges of the day type things where you get softer light, potentially some nice color. I like to use these filters. So let me walk through that. The first thing I did is Accent AI, and as you can see, I boosted it 36, it shows here. But basically I went from that to that. And the difference being is because Accent AI, AI stands for Artificial Intelligence, if you weren't aware, or if you're new to Luminar, but it basically figures out kind of the stuff that your photo needs. And in this case, it needed to be brightened some along that strip of land. Now, I didn't want to go like that because I don't want to make it HDR looking. I don't want to brighten up every bit of the photo. I like to leave a little bit of mystery, for the viewer. And so I want to brighten it enough so they can kind of see, but I think I was at 36. I don't want to overdo it. So that's what I did with Accent AI. The next filter is Adjustable Gradient. And if you haven't used it, it's literally, I say this a lot, it's getting to sound dumb probably, but it is literally one of my favorite filters. It's so powerful and so awesome. So let me turn on that, and you can see the big difference it had in the photo. Let me show you one more time. The before and the after. And so what I did here, it divides the top and the bottom of the photo, and now you can set the orientation. I didn't really, I just, I could change it a little bit to make it more so line up with the land, but it doesn't have a big impact on the photo. But that's what you can do if you need to move that around. Oh, and by the way, you can also rotate it and move these zones and that sort of thing. So I'm not getting into all that. This isn't a tutorial on that filter, although it sort of just became one. But it's a great filter, very powerful. What I wanted to do is basically darken the sky a little bit. So on the top, I dropped the exposure a little bit, and I also dropped the warmth. And, you saw my final photo, so there's a lot of color still in the sky and a lot of orange and red and those nice warm colors. But with Adjustable Gradient here, I wanted to tone that down a little bit because I'm going to bring it back a little bit later with other filters. So one more time, there's the before and the after. So it's a little bit more blue, a little bit darker in the sky. And then for the bottom, excuse me, actually brightened the bottom. And if you haven't shot landscapes, and I'm sure you probably have, but one thing you'll know is that because there's so much more light in the sky than there is in the ground, you're often going to have a little bit darker foreground. Now, in this case, I've got water, and it's a reflection. It's a pond, so it's not even moving water. I've got a reflection, so I've actually got a decent amount of light in the bottom, but it was still a little too dark. So if you look at the before and the after, I brightened it just a little bit, and then also did the same thing with the warmth, and that is took it to the left to cool it off. And again, it was just simply because I like to bring up those blues in a sunset like this, where you've got some great color in the sunset part of the sky, if you will. And then as you can see, it's also reflecting off the skies, which is then being reflected on the clouds, or bouncing off the clouds, and then the reflection of the clouds in the water is carrying that same warm color. But the rest of the sky is really blue, and I wanted to bring that back because I like the play of orange and blue. I just think that those two colors look great together. So there, before I did that, wasn't very much blue. It was kind of lost, and now I've got a bit more blue in the photo, which I like. So that's why I did that. Then I went to Golden Hour, and that was purely just, let's make the golden stuff pop. And I really wanted to bring those clouds to life. And as you can see here around the horizon line there where the sun has set, I've got a nice, really rich, warm tone. And so one more time, there's the before, kind of muted, kind of orangey, yellow, but not really exciting. And now a bit more pop to it. And as I said earlier, that carries into the clouds and the reflection of the clouds. So I think it distributes that warm golden light kind of in a lot of places, which I like. Okay, color balance. I'm going to say it again. One of my favorite filters. It's really close to being my favorite filter just because I love to play with colors, and that's kind of my thing. As you may know from looking at other videos of mine, if you have, and if you haven't, go check them out. And in fact, I've actually got some videos specifically about how to use color balance, but it's very close to being very much my favorite filter. And let me show you what I did to the photo. Boom, there it is. So you can probably see, knowing that I like color, why I like this filter so much. Because one more time, there's the before. Everything is kind of muted. I mean, it's pretty. I like it, but I wanted it to be rich and vibrant because I like that, and expressive and colorful. And so color balance does that, and you can see what it did. And so what did I do with color balance? Thanks for asking. The first thing I did is in the yellow blue, I dragged, I'm sorry, let me start by saying in the shadows, I went to yellow blue and I dragged it a little bit to the right, simply just to add a little bit of blue into the shadows. And it's really not adding blue as much as it is sort of decreasing the yellow, which is I'm basically going away from the yellow. And so some of this area over here just took on a better looking, more natural color hue when I did that. Then I went to midtones, and the only thing I did with midtones is the cyan red. I took it to the right to get a little bit more red, and that gave me a bit more pop in that warm color that's kind of scattered throughout the photo. And then I did the same thing with highlights, roughly the same amount. It was simply just bring up some of those rich colors, rich warm colors, the warmth itself in the highlights. And of course, the highlights are the bright parts. That makes sense. And so that's right over here, and that's some of these parts of the clouds, right? So let me show you one more time. There's the before. You know, I think it's looking better. And there's the after. It's really starting to, I think, come to life. And truthfully, now I shot this like 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, it's been years, and I shot a bunch of brackets. But I took just one of the exposures, F11. I don't know, nothing exciting here. But anyway, I just took one of the exposures, and back then I was shooting like 7 frame brackets, which I would almost never do now. But anyway, it was a single exposure. Again, there's the before doing anything, and that's where we are currently. So I'm getting a little derailed. Okay, so color balance. Let me show you what I also did here, and that is, let me show you the mask. And what I did is I just used the erase button, and all I did was erase it from the center of the photo, which is basically the strip of land. And the reason I did that is because these midtones and highlights that I dragged to the right were starting to make the grass a little too red. And while, in reality, you probably would get a little bit of that color in the grass, it was looking fake. And I don't want it to look fake. I want it to look beautiful, and maybe, for me, nice and saturated. For the next guy, he might be like, whoa, barf, way too much color. And that's cool, whatever. But for me, I wanted that look, but I wanted to tone it down on the grass because I don't want red grass. So that's what I got there. One more time, color balance, before and after. Pretty significant shift in color. I think a nice pop on those clouds in the sky, and it plays off the blue. And remember, I accentuated the blue back here on the adjustable gradient filter. And then my last filter is really just kind of a finishing touch, and that is image radiance. It just adds a bit of contrast, and it adds a little bit of glow that's kind of focused on the brighter parts of the image. So for me, that creates a little bit, more contrast, a little bit darker around the edges, and then in the center where it's brighter because that's where the sun is and more highlights are, that's where it creates a little bit of a glow. And I just think that looks cool, to be honest. And so I went amount 51, which is a pretty decent amount. Oh, this stayed the same, but I actually cooled it off a little bit. I didn't want to overdo it. And I wanted to be careful about the warmth. I don't want it to be like, hey, the sky exploded. Hey, that's about full. I need to manage my storage. Okay, so let me show you one more time. Image radiance. Before, nice. I think it's looking great color-wise. And after, boom. I just think the other thing it does, it creates that sort of fantasy look where it's kind of smooth and dreamy and just kind of yummy. I don't know what the word is, but that's why I used image radiance, because especially for landscapes and at sunset with that softer light, it just looks great. So here we go one more time. Before, That's before anything. That's my base photo. And after, there's an edited. And here's a slider before and after. You can see that we made a big difference in the color, which I'm a fan of doing. And it made a big difference in the photo, which I'm also a fan of doing. And that's it, my friends. 5 filters that I think work great on sunsets. Okay, I need to turn that off. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. If you like this video, and don't forget to hit subscribe. I'm really going to have to take care of that. And share with your friends and that sort of thing. I appreciate it very much. We'll see you next time, my friends, and adios.